Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today, once again, I'm going to be talking about 1911s. Going to be showing some stuff here with the Tisas Raider. First thing first, let's get this cleared. Magazine is clear. And I know the chamber is clear, but I'm still going to pull the slide back, lock it, so I can actually take a look in. There we go. Okay. So, when buying a 1911, I've thought about this, and I know there's a lot of people who looks for a lot of different features in their guns, such as Picatinny rail or accessory rail, stuff of that nature. But I'm going to break it down to 5 things that I think you should look for when you're buying a 1911. And now, obviously, I'm going to go from the standpoint of you're actually standing in a gun store and you're actually looking at the handgun versus trying to buy a handgun online. And that's because probably more commonly people are going to be standing in the handgun and actually have the gun in their hand. So the first feature I want to actually point out is the grips. I think a good textured grip is really important, especially for keeping a really good grip on the handgun itself. Some of those wooded grips are really heavily lacquered and really smooth. And some of the 1911s doesn't have any serration here on the front strap or the back. This one here, it's got real good grips. It's got serration on the back, and I feel that's actually probably one of the most important things, is a really good grip. Now the next thing I would say, especially for more modern 1911s getting outside of USGI style, is going to be the enhanced beaver tail. This piece right here. I feel that's really important. That's a good feature for shooter comfort. And I think at this point, for more modern 1911s, if you're looking for a more modern 1911, that is an important feature. And the enhanced beaver tail is definitely better than the A1 Tang. I know the old A1 Tangs, they're extended a little bit compared to the originals, but they're just not enough, and you still get some slide bite, or not slide bite, but hammer bite, especially in the fleshy part of your hand. So I feel an enhanced beaver tail is an absolute must. The next thing I want to say too, now I have shot 1911s with the old GI style sights, but I think the Novak style sights or a more modern sight like this has is definitely a way to go when it comes to using a more modern 1911. Don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people want to make claims that the more modern sights are more accurate than the old frame style sights that you find on the 1911s. Honestly, they're just as accurate. Just as accurate as the more modern sights. The thing is though, with the more modern sights, is they're easier to obtain and they're more user friendly than those older frame sights. So they're just better overall. But honestly, I don't find it enhances the accuracy. There's other areas though where I do find it does enhance things. And yeah, it's definitely, it's a really good feature. The next feature is also down here. For help magazines is definitely a plus. And I think with the more modern 1911s, once again, that is kind of one of those things that I think you should look for. You know, when you pick up the gun, get the mag out and look down and look for a beveled mag well. Now some of them you can, well, probably any 1911, you can add an attachment piece at the bottom here to kind of give you a flared mag well, but yeah, I think you should just look for one to be standard. Now this is the part I'm really having a tough time with. The 5th one. Do I want to mention the trigger or the safety? And honestly, I think I want to mention the safety. And the reason I'm going to mention the safety, I know it's another safety feature of the gun, but the thing to really look at with the trigger is, in my experience, I've honestly never shot a 1911 with a bad trigger. Now, understand, a lot of the 1911s I shot, an overwhelming majority of the 1911s I shot, were Series 70 internals, and essentially in general terms they were pretty close if not old-fashioned 1911 A1 Colt mil-spec triggers. So, you know, and that's essentially what this has here, and I find this trigger to be great. It's a slightly over 5-pound trigger pull, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not going to mention the trigger, even though I just did. Instead, I'm going to mention the safety. Now, I'm not saying that you need an ambi safety. I know a lot of people want to avoid ambi safeties, and that's because it gets a little fat right here. For me, I think an ambi safety is a plus, but that's actually not what I want to talk about. I actually want to talk about an enhanced safety lever with good positive feedback for when you flip the safety on and off. I think that is really important. These newer style enhanced safeties, this isn't even there's a lot of different types, but I think an enhanced safety is definitely on a more modern 1911 a requirement. And then of course a good positive feedback when you flip that safety on and off. You want to know that when you draw your 1911 out and you flip that safety off, that safety is off and the gun is ready to go. So I think that is actually a really important feature, and honestly, probably out of everything, I want to say that's actually probably the top feature, because even though, particularly for this Tisas Raider, while the safety plunger spring was adequate, I ended up replacing it for a better one so I could get that more positive feedback. And if you want to, I do have a tutorial on my YouTube channel here. I'll put a link down below. Check that out. But I do recommend that, you know, it's a real easy to take it apart and replace that spring. But I think a spring is an absolute must. Or even still, you could just kind of skip over the spring, get yourself a nice Dan Wesson spring with the plunger rods for like $10 and replace it yourself, or even take it to a gunsmith. But honestly, replacing it yourself is really simple, and honestly, in my opinion, that is absolutely worth it, especially when you have in combination with the enhanced safety levers. So anyway, folks, that's going to be the end of today's video and my discussion about my 5 things that I think is really important when you're buying a more modern 1911. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.